Stonehenge, a 5,000-year-old monument shrouded in mystery. For centuries, historians, archaeologists, and scientists have tried to uncover its secrets. Yet, so many questions remain unanswered. Was it a temple, a calendar, or something far more mysterious? Today, we're diving into 10 Stonehenge mysteries that remain unsolved. After centuries, and by the end of this video, you'll realize how this ancient site continues to puzzle the world even in the age of modern technology. Welcome back to your channel name. If you love exploring history's biggest secrets, you're in the right place. Stonehenge has stood for millennia, surviving time, weather, and countless theories about its purpose. But despite decades of research, there are mysteries about Stonehenge that still baffle experts to this day. So grab a seat because we're about to uncover the top 10 Stonehenge mysteries that refuse to be solved. Imagine standing before Stonehenge for the very first time. The wind is cold, the sky is gray, and before you rise these massive, weathered stones arranged in a perfect circle. Some weigh up to 25 tons, others reach nearly 30 feet into the air. They have stood here for more than 5,000 years, older than the pyramids of Egypt, older than most of the world's civilizations, and yet we still don't fully know who built them or why. This question has puzzled archaeologists, historians, and scientists for centuries. Because to understand Stonehenge is to understand the incredible skill and ambition of people living in a time when there were no metal tools, no wheels, no cranes, and certainly no modern machinery to move something this massive across miles of land. Archaeologists believe that construction began around 3000 BCE and continued in different phases over more than 1,000 years. That's right, Stonehenge wasn't built all at once. It evolved over centuries, with different groups adding stones, rearranging them, and shaping the site into what we see today. But here's the problem. These builders left behind no written records, no signs carved into the stones, nothing that tells us who they were or what they believed. We can only guess based on the tools and bones found nearby. Some theories suggest that the builders were part of a sophisticated Neolithic culture with impressive engineering skills. Others think Stonehenge was the work of multiple tribes who came together for religious or ceremonial purposes. The biggest mystery, though, lies in how they moved these colossal stones. The smaller ones, known as blue stones, came from the Preseli Hills in Wales, nearly 150 miles away. Let that sink in for a moment. Moving multi-ton stones without wheels or animals for that distance would be a challenge even today. Some scientists believe they rolled the stones on wooden logs. Others think they used sledges and dragged them over wet, slippery ground to reduce friction. More recent studies suggest they may have floated some stones on rafts along rivers, combining waterways and land routes to reach the site. But no one knows for sure because we have no concrete evidence of the exact methods used. It's like the builders intentionally left us with a riddle that time itself can solve. Then there are the massive sarsen stones, the larger ones that make up the iconic outer circle and central horseshoe. Most of these stones seem to have come from the Marlborough Downs, about 20 miles away. That's closer than Wales, but still a considerable distance when you remember we're talking about blocks of stone weighing more than an elephant. Some experts believe the builders created ingenious wooden structures, like early cranes or levers, to lift the stones into place. Others think huge teams of people worked together, using nothing but ropes, manpower, and simple tools to achieve what seems impossible. Imagine the coordination, the planning, the sheer determination it would have taken. It wasn't just a construction project. It was a feat of community, culture, and belief unlike anything we can fully grasp today. What makes it even stranger is that this massive undertaking happened at a time when people were living in small farming communities. No kings, no massive cities, no organized governments as far as we know. So how did they gather hundreds, maybe even thousands of people to work on this single project over centuries? Was there a leader, a spiritual figure, or a group of elders who convinced everyone this monument had to be built? Did people see this as a sacred duty, something greater than themselves? Because moving and shaping stones of this size wasn't just backbreaking, it was life-changing. It must have taken generations to complete, with parents teaching children the purpose of these stones so the work could continue long after the original builders were gone. And then there's the possibility that maybe it wasn't just about human effort. Some fringe theories, though not accepted by mainstream. Historians suggest ancient civilizations may have possessed knowledge or techniques we've lost over time. Could they have used advanced methods of engineering that disappeared from history? Some even speculate about help from extraterrestrial visitors, pointing out how similar stone monuments appear across the world in places like Peru and Easter Island, all built by ancient cultures with no known contact. While these ideas often drift into the realm of speculation, they highlight one thing clearly: Stonehenge continues to raise questions that challenge what we think we know about our ancestors and their capabilities. When you stand in the center of Stonehenge, you can't help but notice the precision of its layout. Those towering stones aren't scattered randomly. They form perfect circles and horseshoe patterns. The more you study the structure, the more you realize this wasn't just a pile of rocks, it was designed with purpose. Over the decades, researchers have discovered something fascinating. Stonehenge is perfectly aligned with certain astronomical events, and this has led many to believe it might have been a giant prehistoric calendar or even an ancient observatory built thousands of years before telescopes or star charts ever existed. One of the most striking alignments involves the summer solstice. Every year, on the longest day of the year, the sun rises directly over the heel stone, a massive outlying stone at the edge of the monument, and its rays shine straight into the center of the circle. Imagine the scene 5,000 years ago. A crowd of people gathered as the first golden light of the solstice sun pierced through the monument, illuminating the stones in a dramatic display. To them, this must have been more than beautiful, it was spiritual, possibly even divine. Some experts believe this alignment wasn't accidental, but intentional, suggesting the builders had a deep understanding of the sun's movements across the sky. And it doesn't stop with the summer solstice. Evidence shows Stonehenge may also align with the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year. Archaeologists have found animal bones and pottery near the site, suggesting large feasts took place during this season. It's possible people traveled for miles to witness the sunset on the winter solstice, watching as the last rays of the dying sun slipped perfectly between the massive stones. Maybe this marked the turning point of the year, a promise that longer, warmer days were coming. If true, it would mean Stonehenge wasn't just a spiritual site, it was also a practical one. A way for ancient people to track the passage of time and prepare for the changing seasons. But here's the mystery that keeps experts awake at night. How did Neolithic people without writing, without compasses, without modern instruments, achieve this level of precision? How did they know exactly where to place each stone to line up with events like the solstices? Some researchers think the builders carefully observed the sun and stars for generations, passing down knowledge orally until they were able to design a monument that captured the movements of the heavens. Others argue they may have used simple tools, like sight lines and wooden markers, to measure the angles of sunrise and sunset throughout the year. Whatever method they used, the accuracy is undeniable, and it suggests these ancient people had a far more sophisticated understanding of astronomy than we often give them credit for. What makes this even more intriguing is that Stonehenge isn't alone. Across the world, many ancient monuments share similar celestial alignments. The pyramids of Egypt line up with stars in Orion's belt. The Mayan temples in Central America align with equinoxes and solstices. Sites in Peru, like Machu Picchu, also have solar and lunar connections. It's as if ancient civilizations everywhere were looking to the sky, carving its patterns into stone, building monuments that linked earth and heavens together. Was this a coincidence, or were they all tapping into a shared belief system about the cosmos and humanity's place within it? Some theories suggest Stonehenge might have been used to predict eclipses or track lunar cycles. The positioning of certain stones seems to reflect an understanding of the moon's complex orbit, including something called the lunar standstill, a rare event that happens only once every 18.6 years when the moon reaches its most extreme position in the sky. If the builders really were tracking such advanced astronomical phenomena, it means Stonehenge could have served as a kind of Neolithic observatory, a tool for priests or leaders to predict celestial events that must have seemed like messages from the gods. And then there's the question of purpose. Was this knowledge purely practical, helping people decide when to plant crops or hold seasonal festivals? Or was it religious, part of a belief system that saw the sun and moon as deities controlling life and death? Some archaeologists believe the solstice gatherings at Stonehenge were moments of spiritual significance, times when the veil between the human world and the divine felt thinner. Others think it was about power leaders using celestial predictions to impress followers, appearing wise and godlike by announcing the coming of an eclipse or the return of the sun. Whatever the reason, the astronomical precision of Stonehenge adds another layer of mystery to an already baffling monument. It suggests a culture deeply connected to the rhythms of nature, one that saw meaning in the sky above and carved that meaning into stone so massive and enduring that we're still standing here thousands of years later, trying to decipher the message they left behind. As archaeologists dug deeper around Stonehenge, they uncovered something that changed everything we thought we knew about this monument. Beneath the green grass surrounding those ancient stones lay the silent remains of people who lived and died thousands of years ago. Human bones, carefully buried, some cremated, some placed with artifacts, all pointing to one undeniable fact. Stonehenge wasn't just a gathering place or a celestial calendar. At least part of its story is tied to death, to ritual, and to the mysteries of the afterlife. When these burials were first discovered, they shook the archaeological community. Stonehenge had always been seen as a place of life, a place to celebrate the sun, the changing seasons, the power of nature. But now here was evidence that it was also connected to death and perhaps even served as a sacred cemetery for centuries. The cremated remains found here are some of the oldest in Britain, dating back nearly 5,000 years, suggesting that the earliest phase of Stonehenge's construction was deeply linked to honoring the dead. But the questions only grew from there. Who were these people? Why were they buried here? And what connection did they have to the building of this massive monument? Some experts believe these burials belonged to an elite group, tribal leaders, priests, or people of great importance in Neolithic society. Maybe Stonehenge was a sacred resting place reserved have created an overwhelming sense of awe. For people living in a world filled with mystery and spiritual beliefs, Stonehenge might have felt like a bridge between the human world and the realm of the gods, a place where divine energy flowed through earth and stone, capable of changing lives. Some researchers point to the monument's alignment with the solstices as further evidence supporting this theory. The summer solstice, when the sun reaches its highest point, was often associated with life, fertility, and renewal in many ancient cultures. If Stonehenge was designed to capture the energy of the sun at its peak, perhaps that energy was believed to have healing power. The light of the rising sun shining directly into the heart of the monument on the longest day of the year could have symbolized life triumphing over darkness, health triumphing over sickness. Ceremonies held during this time might have combined spiritual rituals with hopes for physical recovery, blending belief, astronomy, and medicine into one powerful tradition. There are also links to myths recorded much later in history. Medieval writers like Geoffrey of Monmouth claim that Stonehenge was originally brought from a place called the Giant's Dance in Ireland, where the stones were said to have mystical healing powers. According to legend, giants had placed the stones there long ago, imbuing them with magic, and King Arthur's men later transported them to Britain. While this story is obviously mythological, it shows that the idea of Stonehenge as a place of healing endured for centuries, long after its original builders were gone. Myths often preserve echoes of older beliefs, so it's possible that even in prehistoric times, the site carried a reputation as a place where the Earth's energy could mend the sick. Adding to the mystery, some scientists have recently discovered that the bluestones produce a kind of ringing sound when struck, almost like a bell or a gong. Could this acoustic property have been linked to ancient healing rituals? Sound has played a role in spiritual and medical practices in many cultures, from chanting to drumming to the use of singing bowls in Asia. Perhaps the builders of Stonehenge believed the stone's strange musical quality was connected to their power. Using sound in ceremonies meant to drive out sickness or call upon divine forces for help. Of course, skeptics argue there's no concrete proof that Stonehenge functioned as a prehistoric hospital. They point out that the burials and evidence of illness could simply reflect the realities of ancient life, where disease and injury were common everywhere. But the sheer number of individuals buried here who had traveled such long distances combined with folklore about healing stones, astronomical alignments tied to renewal and life, and the monument's powerful, almost otherworldly atmosphere keeps the healing theory alive in the minds of many researchers and storytellers. One of the most enduring puzzles about Stonehenge isn't just why it was built or what it was used for, but how on earth it was constructed in the first place. Because when you stand before those towering stones, each weighing as much as 25 to 30 tons, it's hard not to ask the obvious question. How did people living 5,000 years ago without modern cranes, trucks, or even the wheel in common use move and lift stones? So massive that even today, with all our technology, it would be a serious engineering challenge? The truth is, no one really knows. Archaeologists have put forward many theories, some more practical, others bordering on the impossible, but there's still no single explanation everyone agrees on. And that uncertainty has led some to wonder. Did the builders of Stonehenge possess knowledge or techniques that have been lost to history? Could they have discovered engineering secrets that vanished over time, skills that allowed them to achieve feats we struggle to replicate even today? Let's start with what we do know. The builders had to move two types of stones, the giant sarsen stones from about 20 miles away and the smaller bluestones from the Preseli Hills in Wales, a staggering 150 miles from the site. Moving the sarsens alone would have been hard enough, but hauling the bluestones across hills, rivers, and rough terrain seems almost unimaginable without modern machinery. Experiments in recent decades have tried to recreate the journey using wooden sledges, ropes, and large teams of people. While it's technically possible, the sheer manpower and coordination required would have been enormous. We were talking about hundreds of people working together for weeks or even months just to move a single stone. And that's before we even get to the problem of raising them upright and placing the massive lintels, those horizontal stones, on top. One popular theory suggests they used wooden frames, ropes, and ramps built out of earth or timber to slowly tilt the stones upright. Others believe they dug large pits, tipped the stones into them, and then levered them into position. For the lintels, some suggest they constructed enormous wooden scaffolding and used ropes to haul the stones upward, before carefully sliding them into place. Again, experiments have shown this might be possible, but it would have taken extraordinary planning and engineering skill for people living in what we think of as the Stone Age, and the point it would have required knowledge far beyond what we usually credit to Neolithic societies. Then there's the precision of the construction itself. The stones aren't just standing randomly in the ground. Many of them have mortise and tenon joints, little carved projections on one stone that fit perfectly into sockets on another, like pieces of a giant puzzle. This kind of joinery is something we associate with advanced carpentry, not giant stone monuments built thousands of years ago. How did people who supposedly had no metal tools carve such precise connections into rock? Were they experimenting for centuries, learning through trial and error? Or did they possess techniques we still haven't figured out? And here's where things get even more mysterious. Some researchers have suggested that the builders might have used methods now completely forgotten ways of moving or lifting stones that didn't survive in the historical record because they were no longer needed after the age of stone monuments ended. There are tantalizing hints of similar engineering puzzles around the world. The Moai statues of Easter Island, weighing up to 80 tons, somehow transported miles across the island. The massive stone walls of Sacsayhuaman in Peru, with blocks cut so precisely they fit together without mortar and can be penetrated by a knife blade. The Great Pyramid of Giza, with blocks weighing several tons, each stacked into a structure 480 feet tall more than 4,000 years ago. Were these all independent achievements by cultures separated by time and distance? Or did ancient civilizations share some lost understanding of engineering and physics we've yet to rediscover? Of course, this mystery has also fueled more unconventional theories. Some fringe thinkers claim ancient people might have known how to harness natural forces like sound or magnetism to move heavy objects, pointing to myths about singing stones and legends of levitation in various cultures. Others even suggest extraterrestrial involvement, arguing that Stonehenge, like the pyramids or other megalithic sites, might have been built with help from beings beyond this world. Mainstream archaeology doesn't support these ideas, but their popularity shows just how baffling Stonehenge's construction still seems to us today. What we can say for certain is this: building Stonehenge required not only raw strength, but also incredible organization, planning, and knowledge. Whoever the builders were, they weren't primitive laborers blindly dragging stones across the landscape. They understood geometry, astronomy, and engineering at a level that continues to surprise modern researchers. And whether they used ropes and ramps or some now forgotten technique, the fact remains that 5,000 years later, their work still stands, defying wind, weather, and time itself, leaving us to wonder whether we've underestimated just how advanced they really were. And there you have it, 5,000 years of mystery, myth, and unanswered questions circling around one of the world's most iconic monuments. From its baffling construction and astronomical precision to its role as a possible healing center, burial ground, and symbol of lost knowledge, Stonehenge refuses to give up all its secrets. Each discovery seems to solve one puzzle only to open the door to another, keeping this ancient site wrapped in intrigue that continues to captivate archaeologists, historians, and dreamers alike. What's truly remarkable is that even with satellites, 3D mapping, and modern science, we still can't say for certain why Stonehenge was built or what it meant to the people who created it. Maybe that's the point. Maybe it was always meant to outlast not just time, but understanding itself, a silent guardian of mysteries we may never fully unravel. As the sun still rises over the Heelstone every summer solstice, casting its golden light through the heart of this ancient circle, it connects us across the centuries to the very people who stood here millennia ago, watching the same sky, wondering about the same universe, and leaving behind a legacy of questions that make Stonehenge one of history's greatest enigmas.